Welcome to Trader Genius. You've got Coach Jess and Coach Rob here to do your weekly trade reviews for the week of 19 July. And we'll start with the market overview. Take a quick look at the long-term chart, the multi-decade chart, and we're showing, hey, we broke that double top that we had spoken of in the last review, and it's kind of moving up. So Jess, what do you see here?
Yeah, we're kind of just getting some selling after that big move on the breakout, but we're still staying green on our signals there at the bottom of that multi-decade chart, even in the face of having that red candle that's developing. Each one of these candles are weekly candles, so who's to say what it'll ultimately be? This is just basically the aftermath of having a nice big move up.
And if we flex and look at the short-term market chart, the overall market, we can start with the daily if you like, and we'll just go daily, weekly, monthly.
Yeah, the daily, as we were saying before, it was possibly going to hit some resistance. If we turn on the support and resistance lines, see here, last time we kind of talked, it was nearing this zone here and has since met that resistance and pushed back down on its way back up, probably from this support right here. What do you think, Rob?
I think it's a good indicator, especially since we got about 6,000 stocks all moving in that same direction and creating this line, this movement of the overall market. Yeah, you should definitely listen to this. And if we look at weekly, you can see what the data is doing on the weekly time scale. And it's a good call to have that support and resistance on. Now we're moving down on a weekly. This was the last time we talked. It was flat, and now we got red.
Yeah, that red also was preceded by the turn of the red signal on the daily. So you're starting to see, we've talked about before, as the market changes from a long-term where it looks good perspective long-term and gradually works its way down to shorter and shorter time frames and then kind of slinkies back or has some pullback from that, and now you see it trending the other direction, going from the daily to the weekly.
And we're looking for agreement across the board. So daily we had green in a red signal, red background tint. Weekly we got red moves in a green signal. Monthly we got green on green. So we want time frames to agree. And although this is nice, it gives us some confidence in the long-term forecast for this market because it is the monthly, it's the longest time scale. There's no true telling what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's no way to really build confidence right now when there's not continuity, especially when it's so different between every single time frame. Has a different kind of perspective. But one thing that is nice is we are in this new territory on the monthly. So let's just, give people a time to kind of sort themselves out. Right now, people are seeing that high. Now they're in this decision point. Is it going to keep going? Should I get into some positions or out of some positions? Because maybe some people think it's going to turn around after that little bump. So we'll just wait and see and act on what the charts tell us. That's the truth data.
For our daily trade review this week, we'll go to our watch list where we keep our movers. Open that list up. Watch list is a really handy place. You can have a couple different uses for it. So make a list for each trading system that you're using, each purpose, and each stock trading strategy if you like. In this case, we got the weekly movers. SLP is having a nice daily showing. So we'll just turn on trigger. And Jess, if you want to talk about SLP, and I'll just turn on some of these indicators.
SLP came up on today's aftermarket daily dozen. And one of the things that's really significant with SLP is the weekly looks good. You had a nice big volume spike, and then you still got some volume in this week's. If you go to the daily chart is where we can get kind of a fresher perspective on a shorter time frame about what's going on here. What we saw back on July 10th was this nice move up, and then some buying and selling going on. So it kind of, I like to say, took a breath, had this move, kind of figured itself out. The dust settled a little bit. Okay, now which direction is SLP going to go? Well, Rob, you can see on today's candle, that's a pretty nice candle that's in a nice breakout situation. And we're clear to the left on this one from a daily perspective.
That's a good point. Maybe not everybody who's listening to our trade reviews knows what the different candle sizes mean. And when you have volume coming on with a purple histogram, you're typically going to get a fatter candle. Those are the powerful candles. They carry some volume of trades with them. So they aggregate all that volume in one candle in one day, and that means something's likely to happen. They're an up move or a down move. In this case, as you said, looking left, there's nothing there. We look on the weekly time scale, nothing to the left. That means no history of it being in this price territory. And monthly, same thing. So let's go to our longest term chart we have. We'll bring up the investor chart on SLP. And to the right is where we are right now. So it closed at 33.79. It hasn't even been close to that price territory before in the history going back to 1998.
Yeah, whatever SLP has going on is a pretty good situation, and they're having nice, sustained, consistent growth since 2009, really. So that's impressive. And if there is, okay, how do I read this chart and whatnot? Look at the green and the red zones, and look at which direction the stock is trending, and see if that kind of indicator would be useful in your system.
Our weekly trade review is going to be for Repligen, RGEN, and this guy has been moving pretty well recently. RGEN popped up on the Daily Dozen first on May 29th at $71.06, and it popped up again at $89.22 on the high. And if you do the math there, that's a 25.55% gain in just over a month and a half. And I think we will take that any day of the week, but let's break down how it got there. So if we're looking, and this is our weekly candles, so each one of these candles is worth a week. So this is where it would have popped up on the Daily Dozen very first time, May 29th, and we didn't even have K-band yet, which is this blue tint, which is a very powerful indicator. But sure enough, it followed that trend line, and K-band came on with some higher volume, and it really has not taken much of a breath since then, Jess.
No, it has these nice big weekly moves, and then kind of sorts itself out for another big weekly move. And as far as that K-band goes with that first candle, you can always, if it doesn't give you confidence, you can always wait for the next candle to get that proof, if that's what you need in your process.
Confirmation.
Yeah, get that confirmation. Any trader, if you're not comfortable with your what you're looking at based on your process, is just wait for confirmation, because time will ultimately tell, because it's either going to go up or it's going to go down. And in this case, it had a nice big move up. And that quick trend line is getting further and further away from the longer term trend line, showing some nice continued movement up.
Right, that quick trend line being the dotted line here, and that's drawing real time. The solid trend line, green in this case, is depicting in retrospect. So yeah, this is the one we're looking at for our system. And then you talk about confirmation across timescales, brother. We got confirmation on a couple different factors. We got a lot of green balls. You don't necessarily have to know what all the numbers mean in order to trade stocks, but we've got handy dandy color coding for cavemen like us. Green is good. Growth rating of 4 and 3, those are the greatest. I mean, SLP, we were looking at as a prospective trade on the daily time scale, and that had a 6. That's out of 7, so that's really good. But we got some good numbers there. And look at the quarterly. You get confirmation on this time scale. You got confirmation on the financials Anybody could tell that these are going up. And then let's look at the daily. Okay, we see a lot of green on daily for RGEN. Monthly, same thing, green. And then just like SLP in the daily trade, RGEN looking left, it has not been anywhere near this territory before. So we've got some powerful moves happening. Wait for that confirmation on whatever timescale you're trading, but look across timescales for confirmation as well.
Yeah, across timescales. And look, one of the things that I like about this is not only is it a fresh breakout or a true breakout across all time frames, I like seeing on, without even knowing anything about financials, I see consistent growth just represented in those bar charts. So you can even see just at a quick glance without having to dive into all the financials, because it's all graphically represented there for you to make those, accurate decisions in an easy to interpret manner.
And finally, for our long-term trade review this week, we're going to look at CABO, CABO, that's Cable One. And as of 7/18, it had a high of 1243.86. And if you contrast that to May 3rd, when it first popped up on our list, let's go to the monthly time scale. So May 3rd would be right after this candle. So right in this candle, at the bottom of this candle, May 3rd, it popped up at 1081.29 per share. So that is from 1081.29 to 1243.86. That is a 15.03% profit in 2.5 months. So this is your longer term. And the good thing about being a monthly trader, stock trader, is you don't really have to check these every day. And what you're looking for is stocks that are reliable, just like a good partner, a good teammate, stocks in your portfolio which are just going to be steady. And something you and I talked about, Jess, when we were looking across the charts for CABO was this guy just looks steady, just keeps growing. What are you seeing?
Yeah, just much like the kind of blocks on the investor rating, long-term investor rating blocks. It just reminds me of a foundation, just sturdy. If you go to the weekly, I believe it's the weekly chart. Let's see. On this weekly chart, you can see, what was that all the way back to? Beginning 2019. And this thing has just been going strong. It's, you don't see these big, drastic, volatile moves like you see in some of these stocks that have good growth. You see this big highs and lows and kind of contrasting candles. Here it's pretty steady.
Yeah, since the start of 2019, as you were saying, these trend lines, essentially this quick trend line into this one, connect. It has been a steady gainer throughout there. And two red candles, typically we talk about that being, you can consider that a trend stopper. So two red candles there, two red candles there. Even so, it didn't cross those trend lines. This is strong. And that K-band, you don't see that kind of K-band stay on for that continuous candle after candle very often.
No, and it even goes back to the 2018 when it switched from the red to green signal. That K-band, just showing that it's got a lot of power in there. One of the things that I thought was interesting in this was look at the trend lines on the daily. Look at the angles on the trend lines. They're almost all the same across the board. Pretty significant. That is stability and sustained growth.
Stability, sustained growth, a trajectory which isn't predictable but is reliable. When it hits the gas, it's going to go. So how do you figure out what are your entry points and exit points? Well, you might have noticed this here. If you haven't seen this before, this is our Stock Trader Genius replay simulator. So with this tool, you pop up whatever you're looking at. Let's use CABO. Whatever stock you are eyeballing, you can kind of reverse engineer a trading system. So take a look at the daily dozen. Sign up for the daily dozen. It comes to your inbox, 12 stocks every day. Take a look at each one, see what your entry point would have been. Hey, I would have liked to get in there. And then you back it up to that point and you see if it would have fit your rules. So work with the replay simulator and this controller right here. Just fast forward 1 week at a time, see what candle you would have entered in on. This is a nice one. It's breaking that new high. It's a fresh trend, way above the trend line. If we turn on J-stop, those are some pretty good indicators supporting this move. So that's a potential entry right there. Get organized, log these so you know exactly when your entry points were, define your rules, and before you know it, you've got a trading system that you have proven to yourself to be effective going forward.